Hello everyone and welcome to our Star Citizen weekly review where we break down all of the shenanigans that have gone on over the past week, give you an idea of things that have happened on ATV, Reverse the Verse, and any other things that we can find. So it might be a longer episode than last week because a lot has happened. We've had Chris Roberts on our TV and he is the font of all knowledge. So
that guy likes to talk.
He really does like to talk, man. And but everything he says has merit because he is like Jesus. So there you go. All right, without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, so first up, we had an email come out on Wednesday for the Squadron 42 update. Now, there was a bunch of information in there, but also not much information, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of generalization, but there was a few points to grab out of it. So firstly, they're playing with the AI combat behavior, trying to tweak it up, and we know that we need this in the PU desperately.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will bleed over fairly soon. They're also working on the ship traffic that was kind of touted in the last CitizenCon. They said, oh, if you wait here, you can see a ship landing. Yeah, that's not in the game yet, but they are working on it still. We also had an update on FPS AI locomotion. They're trying to fix some of the strange sort of sideways walking that happens in the PU at the moment.
Yeah, I'll miss my crabs.
Yeah. And the sliding ones, they're quite funny. Especially when they start sliding through benches.
Yeah, or like you come out of a lift and they're just hovering 6 feet in the air and you're like, and then they just like fall to the ground and wander off. You're like, yeah, normal.
Yeah. Okay, also they're playing around with new hair improvements and adding new hairstyles into the game. And this was later confirmed by Chris Roberts in RTV. Mm-hmm. So over the next few patches, hopefully we might get some funky new hairstyles to play around with.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're going to kind of release them in sections as well, so you're not just going to get here's 100 hairstyles. You know, you slowly kind of get a more and more as the time goes on, which will at least keep a bit of interest to that side of things. So
yeah. So there was a mention in the Squadron 42 update about a retaliator tweak. They don't actually say what they're doing to it. It sounds kind of minor though, but there is going to be a slight change on the retaliator.
Okay.
Again, they come up with this information and it's very generalised and they don't really sort of go into much detail. And that is a prime example of them telling us that they're doing tweaks to a ship, but they're not telling us what they're doing yet.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time that's a safety net because they might be excited to tell us something, but they don't want to tell us too much in case it doesn't work or it doesn't pan out and then they have to backtrack. Yeah.
Also mentioned in the Squadron 42 update was the addition of HDR.
Yes.
Dun, dun,
I like
dun.
this. For those who don't know what HDR is, it's high dynamic range. It basically takes an image and adjusts the kind of contrasts and stuff like that, so it gives you brighter light, deeper darks, all that kind of stuff. The best example of this in a game that I've seen so far, or two games, is Battlefield 5 does an unbelievable job with HDR. It makes that game so much more involved and dynamic, and also weird enough, Resident Evil Biohazard number 7.
Okay.
If you play that with HDR on, it is the most terrifying experience that you will ever experience in a game because it's so dark. And then like that woman's face comes at you and oh good God, it's terrifying. So I'm really super excited to see what all of these lights and especially ArcCorp with HDR. Yeah. Oh man. Oh.
Okay, the last bit of info that we got from the 42 update was they're creating 5 Vanguard nose gun variants. But we don't know what they are yet. Yeah, sounds interesting, because as far as I'm aware at the moment, Vanguard has a fixed gun on the nose. Haven't actually tested that for a while, so could be wrong, but they are developing some new ones.
That'd be nice. At least have some variation.
Yeah. So then we got ATV on Friday. So first up was the Star Marine updates. Again, we had this last week when some Star Marine update info kind of landed on the roadmap randomly. It's good to see they're actually kind of focusing on this a little bit, because it seems like a bit of an underutilized module in the game that could be a lot better than what it is.
Yeah, it's almost like they created this thing which, it could very well be a great game just on its own, and then it just kind of, I don't know, like an ugly cousin, it just got pushed in the cupboard, and no one really cares about it anymore, and desperately needs some love, because that could be a spectacular first-person shooter. So
yeah, I still think they should make those modules, Star Marine and Arena Commander, free to play. So if someone wants to see what the game's kind of like, they can just jump on and do that. Not sure how that would quite work with Arena Commander. Maybe they start off with an Aurora and can get wreck together to rent other ships.
Yeah,
might sort of tease them into buying more things. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a good idea. I mean, I said it straight off the off last time. That's a cracking idea. And I mean, you imagine that if if it's just a random free to play on, I don't know if they can put it on things like Steam and stuff like that to try and get that maximum coverage. But it would work. It would definitely work. You imagine flying around in an Aurora, build your way up, and then realizing that you could do this in an entire universe, a sprawling universe with hundreds and hundreds of planets and systems. No, it's a no-brainer.
Profit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, next up they spoke about the GTA style crime system that's getting put in. So at sort of 1 star, whatever you want to call it, 1 pip, you get sort of some odd AI bounty hunters coming after you. And then it sort of ramps up. The more pips you get, the bigger the ship, until you get to like 5 star. Hammerheads coming after you and stuff.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I look forward to seeing that in the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it worked really well in GTA, and it's a brilliant system to have, because you think, you do a small crime, you're going to end up with just a couple of douchebags coming after you going, look, you shouldn't have done that. But, you just go on a rampage, killing everyone and doing terrible things. Eventually, you're going to get the army after you, or the military, as you want to call it. And I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a hammerhead coming in and going, right, boys.
Yeah, I've had enough of this.
Yeah, this is it. It's time to end this. Brilliant idea.
And then they went on to talk about some new bounty hunter missions that will get put into the game. That are kind of a harder difficulty and may require a squad. So hopefully that will sort of open up some more squad-based mechanics in the game for like sharing, monetary rewards and stuff.
Yeah, so long as they can get that working.
Yeah. They also mentioned it was about 2-second mention of bounty hunter missions on board ships. Not quite sure if that was a slip that he let that one go, or because they haven't actually mentioned anything about that before. A possible, large ship, and you have to EVA into that ship and take down a target type deal.
Yeah.
Again, very interested to see that in the game.
I wonder if that was like that's like the equivalent of that, whatever her name is, the Jackson woman and her nipple slip.
Yeah.
It's like, it looks like an accident, but it's probably intentional.
Yeah.
That would be awesome though.
And then they went on to talk about the DNA face tech. Now, we've played around with this for a little bit in our live streams for the PTU. Very good. I like the way it's going. It does need a few more things to make it a little bit better. But the face splicing is sometimes a little what's the word, minute. Sometimes you can't quite see what is changing and what's not. The changes are very minor between some faces, so that it needs a bit of work, but as an initial pass for the DNA customizer, awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's worked really well. I enjoyed making that face, and they actually did say that they've made it so that obviously you can't go beyond the confines of a human face, which is fair. I mean, I think I did pretty good at going to the very edges of what a human face should look like. But yeah, it was good, and like you said, some of the changes are too minute to even notice, and like you move a slider and you think, well, what is that actually doing? But no, I mean, it's pretty good. And when you see the other end of it, when you see the other side of it, should I say, for the NPC, and you see actually how much there is to change and how much there is for them, especially for the NPC side of things, to actually adjust. When that eventually filters down into a more robust system on the player side, I can see this being a really interesting way to have a unique character. Yeah.
Speaking of your character in the PU at the moment reminds me of the Scottish lady from Alien. What's the newest one? Is it the newest one? No, it's not. Prometheus,
yeah.
That's the one. There's a Scottish lady doctor in that, and your character looks the spitting image of her.
I'll do my best to chuck a picture up of that right now. Yeah, I can kind of see that actually.
Okay, and then lastly on ATV, they kind of addressed the lack of video content that's been coming out of CIG lately, which was good. You know, people have been sort of crying for some sort of word from CIG about what the hell is going on with this. Unfortunately, this announcement, this came with an announcement. There's going to be no ATV for 3 weeks after a major patch update.
Yeah.
So this actually begs the question even more now than before of what the hell is the sub money going towards?
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that they were set. I mean, like you said, it's good that they have at least addressed it, but they've is not what I expected, because going from this kind of content drought that they seem to have, and then saying that because of the amount of work that these guys have to do when a patch comes out, they won't be doing any. Well, I'm not being funny, but you employ a couple of people that is their main job, just do ATV, and then if you can't actually have a guest on, don't just tell us some stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we want to know. We just want to know about the game. You can tell us secondhand what these guys have said. You could walk up behind them with a camera and just film over their shoulder. I don't know. Do something, but don't do nothing, because that is the complete wrong direction to go, my friends.
Yeah, I would be completely happy with just having Jared sitting down and going through some stuff that's been done.
Yes, Jared
perfectly
is the
happy
man.
with that. Yeah, but like you say, doing nothing is not really that acceptable. Sorry.
No,
that's going to cause a lot of people to unsub.
It will, definitely, because then they are, or at least maybe don't take our sub money for the first, month of after a patch. Because what are we paying for then?
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to RTV, and this is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing for this week. So Chris Roberts spent an hour with Jared. Always fun.
Oh yeah.
First word from Chris is that he's happy with the flight model and the direction it's going. I mean, we spoke about this in our Spectrum Drama episode. That it seems like the majority of people are happy with the flight model. Yes, you can't please everyone. That's life. But the majority of the player base are fairly happy with the flight model as it goes now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to be. They've got their opinions on it. Maybe not everything is perfect, and I mean, he does address that. But I think that it works much better than the previous flight model, and I think most people I've spoken to agree that it's just got a little bit more depth to it now, and that's kind of what we needed.
Yeah. Off the back of that, we went on to the heat mechanic. We know that this is a bit of a strange one for a lot of the ships because it's not working as intended. But he kind of laid out the thought process, and I kind of get where he's going with it. It definitely needs some more dialing in, like for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think I think there's two issues at the minute, because I think one of the issues is separate to that. So what they're talking about is the overheat mechanic when you're traveling long distances. Obviously, in a bigger ship, you can go further. That just makes 100% sense, and the way he explains it makes all the sense in the world. You can't argue it, because there's real world comparisons, so it just makes sense. And then obviously you've got the other overheat problem, which is which I think is an actual bug. So we need to make sure that we keep those two separate. But what they're talking about in RTV is definitely to do with long-term travel. And I love the way he explains it, and what we've talked about before, which is, if you're going to go this massive distance, you don't really want to be doing it in like a small fighter. You want to take that fighter, attach it to a bigger ship, take that bigger ship on the long journey, and then detach and go off and do your stuff. That's the way. That's his vision for it, and I share that vision. So
yeah, definitely. They have actually got a post up on Spectrum at the moment. They want feedback on thruster heat at the moment. So if you want to vent some frustration, head over there and let them know your angers.
Definitely do.
And then they went on to the DNA customizer again, but he was kind of talking about mostly the same stuff that came up in RTV and has come up before. It's amazing, because the first time we saw the DNA customizer was like CitizenCon, I think it was, which was months ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't hear anything about it until about 2 weeks ago, and now every video that comes out of CIG has got something to do with the face customizer on it.
They're very proud.
They are very proud now. But the one point that Chris Roberts brought up that hasn't been said before is that they're looking into trying to blend male and female heads together to make a child, so that when your spaceman dies and you have to make a new character type deal, that you can have like the parent traits into the child if you want to go that way. And that's going to be a really cool feature if they can get that working.
100%, and the possible sort of DNA blending after death. So you're going to get that kind of, this death of a spaceman kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then a portion of your DNA then passes through to your new character, which kind of gives him a vibe, a look of your old character. And I just think that's a spectacular idea. Such a clever idea.
Yeah. So next up was their plans to add procedural missions into R-Corp, and this come off of the whole why is there landing pads on top of buildings question. So eventually they're going to have procedural missions that spawn inside the buildings. So if you need to go and clear out a drug den or whatever you're doing, then it will spawn there. You can land on the building, go into the building, do your mission, and then go off again. Which was nice to have confirmed, because recently I've been thinking, what is the point of having a planet-wide city if you can't actually go down onto it? What is the point of it being there? There is no content there apart from a block building.
Yeah, so it's kind of like old games where you have these drawn-on cities, and they were vast, and you think, this is just to kind of give me a sense of scale, and that's, it's 2019. We know what scale is. We need stuff. So that was a nice thing to hear. Yeah,
considering the size of ArcCorp, it would be a really big waste to have nothing to do on it apart from land at a landing zone.
Yeah, definitely. And I like the fact that he's talking about, sort of landing on one of these pads and then going down through a door, which currently apparently exists, but there's nowhere to go. You can't go through them. And then going into some sort of, penthouse or something and shooting the place up. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to have to try that on the stream. If we can find one of these doors.
Definitely. Because they did talk about, and I might be jumping ahead now, but they did talk about the no-fly zones and the fact that they've done a lot of work on them. But what I liked is the fact that he did confirm that they want people to be able to fly in between buildings, because obviously they're going to need to land on top of them and stuff. Yeah. And I love the fact that that's going to be the possibility of being able to actually fly around these buildings, which means that in theory, we should be able to, on one of our streams, go on a proper explore of ArcCorp, which will be very exciting. So, watch this space.
And for those no-fly zone changes, so rather than having just the ship blow up, what they're aiming for those that don't know, are that the ship will automatically fly you out of the no-fly zone rather than just exploding. And the other idea he had was of like, screen goes black and you wake up in prison type deal. Not sure if I'm totally hot on the eye. I mean, I like the concept that it's going towards, but I'm not sure about the whole fade to black and waking up in prison type deal. I think it would be better, if you keep going into the no-fly zone, like a regular period, then maybe some advocacy turn up and try to arrest you, and then they put you in jail. That would make a bit more realistic, if you like. But, just randomly fading to black when you're sitting in your ship and waking up in prison. That seems a bit cheap.
Yeah, that's immersion breaking, because that's like, that's 10-year-old gaming mechanics. That we don't want that. I mean, like you said, the possibility of your ship being automatically controlled, that's more believable. But I think what they should probably do is they should just say, look, if you go into a no-fly zone, 100% you are not supposed to be in there. So if you go into that no-fly zone, you instantly get a 2-dot crime stat or something, which means that now wherever you go, you're going to get hounded by the popo.
Yeah.
And if you do it again, then you get 4 stars, and all of a sudden you're going to have military coming after you because the way he explains it as well is that you think of this you think of this from a terrorist standpoint, and he brings this up where he says someone might take a hammerhead, fly into ArcCorp, into one of the plazas, try and take out as many players and civilians as they can, and reducing that possibility is something that anywhere in the world would want to do. And the only way to do that is to apply enough penalty to it to make it a death or above all else type scenario. You don't want to survive this because you're just going to get hounded by the military. So I think that's the better way to go. Just make it super criminal. If you go into a no-fly zone, you're just going to have a lot of problems in the future.
Yeah. So while we're still on ArcCorp, they mentioned additional landing zones come. So it won't just be Area 18 that you can land at. There will be multiples on the planet at some point. But that probably won't be coming in until they start working on like a new system. And while they're working on the new system, they can add some new kind of areas into Stanton. Yeah. So for the time being, we're stuck with Area 18, but there will be more coming a bit down the roadmap. Probably 2 years maybe.
I reckon, yeah. I like the way he described it as well. I think he described it more for Hurston than Area 18, but I'm assuming that this is the way it's going to work, in that they'll have all of these kind of instances of habitation and places where you can land and spawn and whatever, and then they'll just slowly kind of spin another one up like a server, when they need it for more players. And that's a brilliant concept and a way of doing it. And I can see that working the same for like the areas. So 18's enough for now, and once they, like he said, once they've got the Stanton system kind of complete-ish, I suppose.
Yeah.
Then they can start to push more areas onto these planets, because for now we only really do need one. So.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to need more when player housing is a thing, because that was actually mentioned. Confirmed player housing in Star Citizen.
Oh yeah, very excited.
Sounded like you could sort of start off with a small room somewhere in ArcCorp, or maybe Lorville, maybe. And then you could. The theory is that there will be sort of more expensive places to buy, so you could buy a penthouse on the top of a massive skyscraper if you wanted to, with a full view of Area 18. That was your thing. Or different locations, wherever you wanted to live, you could buy a place for, kind of deal.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, that's kind of what we want as like full-on immersive role-playing kind of guys, is that we want that ability to feel like we're moving forwards in a game. And buying property, you couldn't get more grown up than that. And I like the idea of that, and I like the fact that they went on and talked about the fact that like there's no windows in any of the habs and stuff at the minute. And he said, obviously, if you buy a massive penthouse for 10 million credits or whatever, then you can have that experience of like walking up to your shutters, rolling up those shutters and seeing the sunrise, from over Lorville or over ArcCorp or whatever. And that to me, that's enough reason to just keep throwing money at this game until it's done, because I want that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so Chris also mentioned that they're looking at the HUD, because he's not happy with the current HUD implementation. He even said that his favourite HUD that they've come up with so far was one of the beginning ones. So they're doing a re-concept of the whole HUD. And yeah, I mean, we need this badly, because it's getting a bit, I wouldn't even say cluttered, but the new one in 3.5 seems to have regressed quite a bit, down to something that looks quite basic.
Yeah, that's always been the way. We did a Spectrum drama on this, I think, a few months ago, and that was about the fact that the HUD has pretty much gone backwards. Every iteration they bring out, it just seems to take a step backwards, and it's not very good. And I mean, the current state of the HUD is, I mean, it looks fine, it looks professional, but it's just a bit, I don't know, it almost looks like an afterthought. And the way he explained it made sense, in that they seem to have these kind of almost like these erroneous ghost images of sections, which they don't really need anymore, but they're still there. And obviously once they bring in their new, because they did talk about this new set of tools that they're building to be able to actually do this. And once they bring that in, then obviously they can redesign the HUD from the ground up and have something that they want, that's a lot more interactive. I like the fact that he went on to talk about the possibility of being able to cast MFDs up to your helmet and back, and resize them and all that stuff. And that is the kind of thing that we should have, basically. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, server performance. So they were talking about ArcCorp, the frames mostly. For anyone that has tried the PTU, you'll know that the performance of ArcCorp is quite bad.
So it made me laugh, actually, because there's a direct quote here from Chris Roberts, the man himself, that actually says, Jared asked him, about the ArcCorp frames per second, and he literally says, yeah, the frames per second sucks. And it's nice to hear that from the man himself. They know it sucks. They know that it's terrible at the minute for us, but, what can you do when they're trying to push out and expand,
Yeah. I mean, the way he kind of explained the reason for it is completely believable. They've just added this massive city planet into the game, so the server load is the bottleneck now, and it's not going to get any better until server meshing and server OCS is actually implemented. So, unfortunately, guys, from this point on, expect things to get worse before they get better.
Oh yeah, but also just bear in mind that up until a few weeks ago, you run around in well, even Lorville. You run around in Lorville, you run around in Port Olisar, you get bloody good frames per second for a work in progress game.
Yeah.
And so you can 100% see his point that the minute that they get it to a certain point where they're getting consistent frames, they bring in this great big new bunch of assets, 5,000 or something he said, and then all of a sudden, yeah, the server goes shit. So yeah, you just have to take it in your stride at the minute, because it's always going to be the way, but it's damn pretty.
It is damn pretty.
And the other thing, actually, just to jump straight in, is VR. They do get the question about VR, and Chris Roberts, who I think he's probably an avid VR himself. So he did say that VR is on the way, but they need to get this new Vulkan system working first. So they need to go from DirectX 11 to Vulkan. Once they get that going, then having the left eye, right eye rendering at the same time, and getting rid of all of the motion sickness and all that kind of stuff is going to be a thing, which means, people, we are 100% going to have some decent VR support for this game, actual VR support. So I'm very excited for that. Yeah.
So, organisations in Star Citizen, there was talk of what they're going to add, kind of like a permissions-based thing, so that an organisation will have its kind of organisation hangar. I guess you will be able to assign some of your ships into that organisation hangar, and then whoever's kind of the leaders of those organisations will be able to assign rights for people that will, let them come in and take what ships they have clearance for, kind of deal. And it would be really nice to actually get some kind of organisation support in the game. At the moment, there's nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, literally nothing. And I mean, there are some big organisations now. I mean, we work with a couple of them, and they, they only exist outside of the game, basically.
Yeah.
And they try to create things to do in the game. But once that permission system works, and the organisations can actually have a place to gather and assign things to do, that's going to create a whole new world of possibilities. And that actually moves on to another subject as well, which was when he discussed the multi-crew. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
This permissions issue. And once they get that permission sorted, you're going to have, captains of ships being able to say, right, I assign you comms, and I assign you weapons, and actually kind of that multi-crew is suddenly going to become a big factor in ships. And I think the question was actually asked, when will people be able to assign jump points, and also what's the other one?
Landing permissions.
Landing permissions, exactly. And that is what we're waiting for. We're just waiting on this permissions kind of system that they're developing to actually work.
Yeah,
very good stuff.
And we also got some word on future mission givers. So at the moment, mission givers in the PU are kind of grey.
Yeah.
But I think Chris Roberts did actually confirm that they're working on some sort of more lawful type mission givers. Kind of, I think he mentioned one of the security force for Arc Corp giving out sort of bounty missions or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the actual terminology was scummy.
Scummy, yeah.
Scummy. Yeah, they're all a bit scummy. And they are. They've all got this kind of real dodgy, aspect to them. And it would be nice because, I mean, I don't really know what kind of player I am yet. I mean, we always say that we're probably more lawful, and we don't do this dodgy stuff around, Jump Town and stuff. But, I mean, probably before the game actually comes out, we'll test everything. But I think when the game's actually fully out and ready to go, we will be nice people, and we will want to probably only deal with the lighter side of the community,
Yeah.
Okay, guys, there you have it. So that is the week in review. It's a lot to take in. There's a lot to unpack there. But it was a busy week. We're coming up to the patch being released, and so there's a hell of a lot of stuff going on We hope we covered everything. There may have been a few little things that we've missed, but I think that's the main points. If there's anything we have missed, let us know in the comments. And also, if you've got any opinions on some of this stuff, chuck them down in the comments section below, and we'll come back and we can always have a discussion about it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the week. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Star Citizen content, and we will see you around the verse. Bye bye.
Bye bye.